I'm first joined by Harish Salve tonight. Harish Salve, of course, one of India's most preeminent lawyers, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, former Solicitor General of India, has been amicus curiae in the case of Aravallis till 2024. Thank you, Mr. Salve, for joining us at last minute notice on this. Now, this matter has become a very public matter, Mr. Salve, and the question is not misuse, but the possibility of misuse because of the definitional change. It's been put under question here. You may have seen some of our report which showed the rampant...
I saw some of your reports, Arnab, and I mean, you've beaten the judgment up, so I don't want to say anything very much more. But I was a little surprised to see they note the contention of the amicus that going below 100 will be devastation. They note the contention of the additional Solicitor General saying going by FSI would reduce perhaps the aerial spread of the Aravallis. The obvious answer was to take the definition of the FSI on the hills and that of the committee on the aerial width and increase both. So that's how we always worked it back in the day. There's no reasoning in the judgment. I couldn't find any reason why they found the amicus's contention untenable. But let's move ahead. I believe there is some proposal to relook the judgment. I would only wanted to channelize your discussion a little. See, we started this as enforcement of the Forest Act in 1996, when Justice Verma and Justice Kirpal took this up and appointed me as an amicus. The first thing we did is of an area which you're very familiar with, the Northeast. And believe me, they had a survey done. There was a person who was assisting the court of the Northeast. He was a very senior person, in fact, former IB person. He was very familiar with the area. And he sent photographs to the Supreme Court saying what used to be lush forests look like golf courses now, completely green flat. And the Supreme Court started banning mining in the Northeast. And the familiar refrain was, don't do this, it'll lead to illegal felling, it'll lead to bloodshed, it'll lead to all sorts of the heavens will fall on your head if you ban all forestry in the Northeast. The Supreme Court banned forestry in the Northeast and said we will hold the Chief Secretary liable if there is a breach of our order. And everything settled down. So, there will be illegal mining or there will be some illegal deforestation. This is not something which we need to be factoring into evaluation. That's a matter of enforcement. The second thing which I just wanted you to bring onto the table is, what is the definition of forest under the Forest Act? There is a judgment of the Supreme Court. I know it's a little dated now, but I don't think it has been changed, where Justice Verma and Kirpal, if I remember correctly, their bench accepted that the definition of forest under the Forest Act is everything which is or has been a forest, including degraded lands are forests. Now, the government's submission was that there are large degraded lands here. If they are degraded lands, they have to be called forest. We have to remember, Arnab, our Forest Act was enacted because India's forest cover had dropped from about 18 or 20% at the time of independence. It had come down to 4%. So, and Mrs. Gandhi, when she brought in the Forest Act, said, I want afforestation to go back to 33%. So everything which is degraded has to not be put under further deforestation. It has to be put back under re-afforestation. And there are judgments of the Supreme Court how this is to be funded, etc., etc. In fact, the whole, what is called the CAMPA, the compensatory fund, was created for reforestation purposes. And there are billions lying in that fund, which I'm so happy are now accumulated. So this is the real debate to be brought back. The second is the application of the precautionary principle. Today, the way things are, the precautionary principle is, it doesn't need to be seen whether harm will be caused. It needs to be proved that no harm will be caused. Now, I don't think there was any material before the Supreme Court to say that if you accept, and the court accepts in paragraphs after paragraphs, that this was a very old area, the court accepts that this has to be protected, then the rule has to be no-go. There has to be proof that certain activities will not damage the ecology. Unless the positive is proved that it will be completely benign.
On that,
there was no question of allowing
on that
anything.
itself, Mr. Salve, I'm also joined by Ridham Anand Bhardwaj, you know her so well, our executive editor. I'm also delighted to be joined by Sambhavi Srivastav, who we all commend for a fantastic investigative job. She's risked her life. You saw there was an attempt by the mafia
Yes.
to bribe her. She's done a great job. This is ground level reporting. And on that, Sambhavi's point report actually shows, Rhythm, that the precautionary principle that Mr. Salve speaks about so well, a question I did ask Justice Gavai day before yesterday, to which he was not really giving a clear answer to with precedent. See, Rhythm, you can maybe take this to Mr. Salve, because on the ground, Sambhavi saw that there was immense breaking down of the rules, violation of the rules, so the need for precautionary principle to be applied is even greater.
Yes.
Arnab, I saw her clips 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, Sambhavi's clips.
Yes,
Yeah.
what she saw was clearly, what she was showing was clearly a forest.
Can you tell Mr. Salve what you saw, Sambhavi, and then Rhythm will take it forward? Because there's a principle of precaution in the law. What did you see on the ground in terms of precaution? Was precaution applied at all?
Well, there was no precaution from what we saw, and at every site that we were at, there was blatant breaking of law, and even the local villagers who are not very meritorious, as we can say, 10th pass, 8th pass, they know the order. They are showing me the order copy that, ma'am, see, NGT has said that they cannot carry out the mining post-sunset. Ma'am, see, at least 500 meters is required. But we saw that within 40 feet of the homes, there is like whole crusher, and then there's crushing activity, mining activity, and the kind of strength of the deep hole blasting that was happening, it shook the entire mountain that we were standing on. So we saw there were several cracks in each and every single house. There are people who have they're suffering from so many diseases. And we also have the certified copy where doctors are saying that to a great extent, that diseases is because of the pollution, because of the
I saw that in your report as well. You showed the damage.
Let me tell you 3 or 4 points which strike me immediately. And since the Supreme Court is going to be relooking this, you must
Yes,
bring
they will
this
be.
forward. First of all, what I saw in her clips, according to me, it looked plainly like a degraded forest.
Completely.
I was happy she was using a phrase, deemed forest. The meaning of a deemed forest is something which was once a forest. Doesn't look like a forest. What we need to do is afforest this area, rehabilitate this area, and bring it back to where it was, not to make it further worse. The second thing is the precautionary principle is in play here. It is obvious that the activities you have permitted are not benign. It stares you in the face. So they have to be stopped. The third is to say, I will allow mining in this area. I am not an anti-mining person. I have clients who run mines, but the earth and the environment come first. So what we have, as far as mining is concerned, it's like saying, yes, I will take my leopard for a walk on a strap and I will make sure he doesn't bite anybody. But it doesn't work that way. So the moment you allow mining, that's where the trouble begins. To say that we will be so contained and so controlled in our mining.
It would. So therefore, then, to some extent, Mr. Salve.
I told Rhythm, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I told Rhythm, there was a big mine being run by a big government company in Karnataka. And the Supreme Court shut it down, the Kudremukh iron ore project. Now, Kudremukh iron ore project was very important for India. It was export-oriented, etc. You'll find all this in the judgment. All these principles are discussed.
See, the court...
Sometimes this sustainable mining in these areas reminds me of a phrase which I had read in Solzhenitsyn. It was called boiling ice.
Exactly. I don't understand. You see, they're constantly using this oxymoronic phrase out here. But I want to remind everyone tonight that Harish Salve's coming in on this case is an important and significant turning point in this case. Because as amicus curiae, he'd taken a very firm stance against indiscriminate mining. I think it's time we put the clear question to him, Rhythm, and no one better than you to put it to him. Very bluntly, to Mr. Salve, you can put the question. That
Sure.
Therefore, this 100-meter rule should itself be put under some scrutiny, this decision to do away with the 100-meter rule when so much degradation is happening, so much violations are happening. Rhythm.
Yes, and Mr. Salve, like Arnab and Shambi was showing us through her report, like Arnab is asking us this, Mr. Salve, you played a significant role in several years that we've been seeing since 1996, key environment and forest conservation matters. You're speaking about the definition of conservation, what Shambi kept saying, deemed forest, so crucial, because I remember in amicus in 1996 for cases related to the Enforcement of Forest Protection Act 1980 also, we had also almost seen you were instrumental in bringing an end to destructive illegal mining operations in South India. You argued for the NPV on projects that remove natural forests. My question, therefore, if there is a review in this judgment, like Arnab is saying, what are the key issues that need to be taken up?
This 100-meter rule specifically.
First of all, let's have clarity. The aerial spread and the vertical of the Aravallis. Let's not confuse the two. I think there is some confusion in the judgment. There is no question of saying the height of this has to be minimum so much to be Aravalli. Aravalli is an aerial spread. There used to be hills, but like every hill will have its surrounding area. So the aerial spread of Aravalli cannot be defined in terms of the vertical height of a hillock. I don't know what's going on here. The aerials, because there's a whole ecosystem. Aravalli is not a hill, it's an ecosystem. So we have to first define the ecosystem. That ecosystem will have dry bushes, the ecosystem will have dirt, the ecosystem will have forests, it will have all sorts of things. Rain and climate are created not by trees, they are created by ecosystems. So we have to define the Aravalli ecosystem. And once the Aravalli ecosystem is defined, it has to be a no-go area.
No, but there the government is trying to say there's a huge difference between ecosystem and a mountain range, and play on that. So I just want to put it very simply to you.
A mountain creates an ecosystem.
Correct. So how do you make a difference between the two? You see, then the government tries to corner you. Saying my question to you, Mr. Salve, is that therefore I hear you correctly. To play an emphasis on anything under 100 meters is not Aravalli and therefore can be opened up to mining is fundamentally wrong in your views.
Of course. What I see is this 100-meter debate was unnecessary. The whole Aravalli ecosystem has to be defined on an aerial spread of what really is the Aravalli. And there the precautionary principle has to be applied. After defining the Aravalli ecosystem, you have to have a buffer zone. And that buffer zone will be outside the Aravallis to protect the Aravallis, beyond which you can consider all other activities. So I think this is where really it needs to be.
So the 100-meter rule should be reversed, Mr. Salve?
The 100 aerial, the height has no relevance.
Brilliant.
It has to be geographical spread, aerial spread. If you see from the top, what should be. That may have
to say that
meter,
a mountain that is less than 100 meters is not a mountain?
Irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the debate. You have to find out the geographical spread of the old Aravalli. Okay. We're not talking of current Aravalli. We're talking of the Aravalli as it had been.
This is very important.
B, around that, you have to put a buffer zone.
Yeah.
To protect it, you have to put a buffer zone. That's the rule in mining.
Correct.
So around that, you decide how much you want. You want 500 meters, ideally 500 meters. I'd ask for 10-kilometer buffer zone.
Correct.
Around.
I
but
think
you
that's
may say,
brilliant.
10 is too much, you should have 5 kilometers, whatever.
No, this is important. Harish Salve weighs in and says that the 100-meter, in a way he's saying 100-meter debate was unnecessary, but he's also saying the 100-meter definitional change is not required. Especially when you are seeing...
According to me, they looked at the wrong thing. What they should be looking, not in terms of how... Aravalli is not a mountain range. Aravalli is an ecosystem. What are we trying to define? It's a very arbitrary thing. I can say a mountain is 150 meters. I can say a mountain is not less than 1,000 meters. So that's a very arbitrary definition. What you have to see is where were the Aravallis?
Yep.
And what was the Aravalli ecosystem? That ecosystem which has protected central India from desertification, which has been the watershed, which has been the airshed, etc., etc.
So the present
That's
judgment
how
then has to
define
be
ecosystem.
stayed before we look at all these issues. This present judgment will have to therefore be stayed, Mr. Salve.
Nothing, fortunately, nothing came out of the judgment because the court said you have another committee. You can have another committee to define, but the important thing is, what is the committee to do?
But it will have to be, this present judgment appeared to be so final, past 3 days before Justice Gavai's retirement. This has to be put in abeyance and then maybe
I'm
a
not
fresh...
commenting about the timing. I'm not commenting about its reasoning. I'm saying let's look at what needs to be done, what has not been done. According to me, we need to define the Aravalli ecosystem. If you ask me what is the Aravalli ecosystem, I'll tell you. The Aravalli ecosystem consists of its forests, it consists of its aquifers, it consists of what is the airshed created by Aravalli, it creates by what is the watershed created by Aravalli. It is not just where you find puddles of water, but where the water through the rain system dissipates and spreads into other areas. You have to define, so you have to first lay down how you're going to define the Aravalli ecosystem. Once you've laid down those steps of defining the Aravalli ecosystem, then you draw the map of the Aravalli ecosystem, and then you say, okay, around this map, I'm putting yet another safety ring.
Yeah.
And that safety ring is called buffer zone.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying this again, that therefore this 100-meter height rule has no relevance. Absolutely no relevance, and I don't know how the case will go, but, Mr. Salve, my own view, this whole judgment was flawed. It has to be put under review. I don't know the tearing hurry when so many complicated things are involved, but I'm glad you weighed in on this.
I don't want to go there. I'm only telling you, with my experience of doing this work, I've had the privilege of being associated with this from 1996 to I think at least 2012 or 2014 till I left India. I was doing this very actively. There were years and years where every Friday afternoon we used to do a whole slew of these applications. And if we take the trouble of going back through some of those, the NPV judgment discusses ecosystems so beautifully. Because I'll just, sorry to take 2 more minutes of your time, Arnab. See, what is NPV? NPV is the net present value of what you lose every time you break ground in a forest, every time you remove a tree from a forest.
Yeah.
You've not just lost a tree, you've lost an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So the net present value is a very complicated formula and algorithm on which you calculate what society has lost every time you break ground in a forest. So that judgment will tell you what ecosystems are. You have to base yourself on that. And then you have to apply the old forest rule, everything which is degraded and needs to be rebuilt as a forest. And then you draw your map of which is the forest area here. And that's the no-go area. And whether it's 50 meters high or 500 meters high, how does it matter?
No, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're weighing in. I would still say again, I know you're not coming in. I know you're not coming in on what I'm saying tonight because you may play a role, I think, in the future. I hope you play a role. I hope you play a role. I hope you play a role. And then the journalism we do will go to its conclusion because we don't like these 100-meter rules.
Please, the amicus curiae who's there has been doing a wonderful job.
No, Mr. Parmeshwaran does a wonderful job, but his point of view was not only recorded and not considered. It's my view, sir.
See, the whole power of view is because the courts may at times overlook important aspects.
Well, Mr. Salve, thank you.
Let's move ahead. Let's move ahead.
Let's move ahead. Let's see what happens when the review petition comes up in court. I thank you, Mr. Salve. I thank you, Rhythm. Sambhavi, please stay. Rhythm, actually, you can stay. Mr. Salve, thanks very much.
Thank you, Arnab.
And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Sambhavi.